So Joe Joyce has suffered another stoppage defeat, and it may have revealed a brutal truth. So let's break down the fight, examine what really happened, and discuss where Joe Joyce goes from here. So I'm going to go through the fight, and then I'm going to offer some reflections. So let's go through the fight. So in round one, Joyce is stepping to his right, and he's trying those short left hooks, and he's trying to throw the left hook on the counter. And in round one, he's actually using the step back as a defense, and he's throwing a lot of jabs, and he's setting quite a hard pace. So this round is quite promising for Joe Joyce, but the only problem is that when he's getting caught flush. And then we move into round two. And now Joe Joyce is coming out more aggressive, and he's throwing the 2-3 combo. For those that don't know, a 2 is a straight right, and then a 3 is a left hook. So he's trying the 2-3 combo, and then he's placing this right hook to the body. Now his opponent, I'm going to use the term opponent because I can't pronounce the name. I don't mean to be disrespectful there, but his opponent is trying the counter left hook, and he's having some success. Now, after the first minute, Joe Joyce gets back on his jab. And when he gets back on his jab, he creates some distance and he picks up points. But on the inside, he's getting caught with hooks, particularly the left hook. And he's getting caught flush, and he seems to be losing concentration. And now going into round three, Joyce starts with like straight punches. So he's throwing straight rights and straight lefts. And Joyce is again going to the body. He's throwing that right hook to the body, which should be a good investment. But his opponent, again, is getting off this left hook, and he's doubling that left hook. And there's two moments. At one point, he doubles the left hook, and then he triples the left hook, and then goes through the phases. And this is a problem because Joyce is being defensively irresponsible at this point. Now, Joyce is stepping to the right. So he's stepping to the right, which creates a different angle for his right hand. And that's a good thing. But he's just being defensively irresponsible. His hand placement needs to be better. He needs to be doing the step back that he was doing in round one. And he definitely needs to establish his jab. Going into round four, Joe he's throwing that short left hook again. And now he's starting to feint a bit, which is good. That again is establishing the distance. But then he abandons it. But then there's a nice lead. There's a nice straight right off that right angle. And again, when he does that, that looks good, but he's not doing it enough. Unfortunately, though, Joe Joyce gets hit with a left hook to the head, and he looks hurt. And again, this is a hand placement issue. Joyce needs to use his right hand to catch the punch. So when he's at the angle and he's throwing that straight right, he needs to get back in position and catch the left hook. But he's not doing that, and he needs to throw more jabs and throw more feints. So going into round five, like I said, the double left is giving him significant issues. The opponent is starting to utilize that strategy. Joyce is trying to control distance. Now, the one good thing that Joyce is doing here is that he's shortening his punches. He's shortening up his punches. And that's a good thing, because then he's moving his opponent into the punches, and he's shortening his punches. What he needs to do, though, is when he moves his opponent, when his opponent is moving into the short punches, he needs to then step off and then catch with the appropriate placement. Either use the right hand placement or the step back. But Joyce is looking tired. He's looking like at times he's losing focus, and he actually takes 2 right hand leads. Joyce again is throwing more punches, but his opponent is landing clean. So he's throwing these short punches, which his opponent is catching. When his opponent starts throwing punches, he is landing, and it looks spectacular. But when Joyce uses his feet, it's effective, but he's not using his feet enough. So then we move into round 6, and Joyce is landing short punches, and he's now trying to finish off with that right hand to the body. Joyce is staying in the pocket at times, and again, when he stays in the pocket, he's getting caught with the hooks. But the one good thing he is doing is that when they are in the pocket, he's starting to lean on his opponent. So that means the opponent has to carry the weight. And the one note that I made is that if Joyce was to throw more jabs, he would win the rounds much, much cleaner and create more opportunities for himself. So then going into round 7, again, Joe Joyce is just too easy to hit. He looks like he's lacking some concentration at times, but he is still outworking his opponent. Joyce's hand placement, so the right hand placement, that's improved, and he's now catching the left hooks. But in the pocket, he's still defensively irresponsible. Going into round 8, again, Joe Joyce has been consistently investing into the body, and he's still throwing short punches. Joyce is using his weight in the clinch. That's a good, smart thing to do. And Joyce is going back to that jab and short left hook. He's been effective when he's throwing that short left hook, particularly when he's doubling it. In round 9, Joe is starting to improve defensively at the start of the round, and he's still finding those short left hooks. Both throw big shots mid-range, and they're both tired. So this is when, you can have a significant breakthrough. At times, Joe is walking him into that left hook. It's a close fight, but I think Joe Joyce is winning it just off the volume of punches, but it's close and it's very subjective. Going into round 10, it's getting sloppy. Both men are tired. But Joyce, again, I feel is the one setting the pace. His opponent is not finding those dangerous left hooks like he found before. And Joyce is using his size in the clinch, which is smart boxing. And then we approach round 11. And then Joyce's right hand placement has improved at the beginning of the round anyway. He is stepping to the right, and that creates the angle. And that lead right hand, he could utilize that effectively. He just needs to be careful of catching the counter. So if he can throw it and catch the counter or step out, that could be effective for him. His opponent, in the middle of the round, gets particularly aggressive and lands 3 hard left hooks. And then after he lands those left hooks, I think it was left hooks, but it was definitely some powerful hooks. He then lands a sequence of punches. And this is when it gets weird, because Joyce backs off. So he looks like he may be hurt. And then he waves his gloves. And then, inexplicably, Joyce stops defending himself. And then the referee has no choice, absolutely no choice, but to stop the fight. Unfortunately, it looked like Joe Joyce had simply had enough. This is a very weird ending. And my immediate assumption was that there must have been some type of injury. Maybe he was waving his hand because he'd injured his right hand. Of course, there are questions. Why did this happen? Was it an injury? What happened in camp? Did Joe Joyce simply just lose interest? Did he lose the passion? He looked like he had enough. He looked like he was losing focus. And at points, he just looked like he was bearing the weight of the world. That's when he was switching off and getting hit with those hooks. And despite this, I thought he was winning the fight. But as someone who likes Joe Joyce, because Joe Joyce, I think, is a very likable person, the ending was particularly sad. Joe Joyce had a new team for this fight. He had Sugar Hill Stewart, who is currently Tyson Fury's trainer. And Sugar Hill Stewart was constantly shouting encouragement to Joe Joyce throughout the fight, asking for more. And in fairness, there were some technical improvements, but there were still too many mistakes and that weird ending. Considering this, it's hard to see Joe Joyce coming back and being a force in the division again. Of course, he can come back, but whether he can come back at the level he was previously, that's hard to foresee. But with that being said, it's not down for us, the boxing media, the boxing world, to tell him it's over. That is his decision. But we, at the same time, can point out that it's difficult to come back to the top level. So with that being said, I just want to pivot and talk about what I remember about Joe Joyce. I remember his come up. I remember him dominating opponents. I particularly remember his war with Carlos Takam, and Carlos Takam came to fight. I also remember his back and forth against Joseph Parker, a former world champion, a really good fighter, and Joe Joyce was vicious that night. And then I remember his beautiful boxing display against Daniel Dubois, now a 2-time heavyweight champion. I remember his jabs, his movement, and his ring IQ that night was great. And to me, even though that wasn't his brutal performance and that wasn't a typical part of his boxing IQ, that was his best performance. So with that being said, whatever decision that he makes, I wish him all the best, because he's been a gentleman and he's also been a warrior. So that's the end of the video. Now I'm trying to build a digital boxing community, and that means I'm interested in your thoughts, I'm interested in your perspectives, and I'm interested in your observations. Now, if you want to support the channel, press like, hype, and subscribe. And if you want to watch more content like this, then simply click here or click here. As always, thanks for your time. It is much appreciated.